You open your eyes. It's pitch dark here, the blackness of a coffin drifting in the abyss. Oh, right. Light. You grasp the switch, flip it. The familiar cramped room with a sealed door and no windows comes into view. You emerge from the bedroom fully awake, just like yesterday. This time, however, Sophie is waiting for you, comfortably seated in the sofa in your living room space, a book in her hand. The Melancholy of Resistance, the title sure on brand. Okay, there we go. Good evening, Amanda. Good evening, Sophie. I hope you rested well. Tonight will be quite eventful, I think. Go. We have an appointment. I received word Elysium would be called again tonight on account of your unruly friend from Corona Park. This should make a great opportunity for you to mingle. She keeps talking as you walk downstairs and get in the car. Gregory gives you a slight nod and a small smile while opening the door for you, Sophie. He starts the car when you take your seat in the back. Most of the Premium Council is bound to be there, at least those who usually attend. Probably some other personalities. You do well to at least learn about. Anyone I should talk to when we arrive? Not especially. My advice would be to try to talk to the prince and perhaps reassure her of your gratefulness for being spared. Maybe speak to Kadar on the same topic if you get a hold of him. The Premium would be I would advise against. They are rather stuck up, all told, and even if they were to talk to you, they might try to secure you for some nefarious purpose. I wouldn't appreciate that. Of course, be respectful if anyone approaches you and strikes up a conversation. You will no doubt be gossiped about, as will I. Keep a cool head. Enjoy provoking fledglings into stupid acts. At any rate, you should behave yourself tonight. Remember what I told you about the reflecting on me as your patron. I have a reputation to uphold in the court. Do not tarnish it. There it is. She might have saved you. She might be protecting and teaching you, but it's clear what she's really concerned about. Her own interest. You step into the art hole with something of a bad memory. The last time you were here, your entire world had been turned upside down and your existence nearly ended. But tonight, there is very little outward hostility. Yes, Kadir gives you a look that's definitely intended to remind you of your place. But the prince is also in attendance, who seems pleased to see you. Yes, words. Welcome, Sophie. Amanda, did I get that right? Good evening to both of you. I understand there's somebody else you wish to present to the court tonight. Yes, Prince. They will be joining us shortly. My assistant is retrieving them presently. This better be worth the prince's time, likely. The prince gives Kadir a cold glance. Forgive the sheriff's harshness. He's in a particularly foul mood tonight. Something to do with Amanda's begetter eluding his grasp, I believe. Oh, that must have hurt his ego, even if his only reply is a crooked smile. The mention of your sire makes you grit your teeth in anger. Asshole, setting you with a curse that cut off your career, cheating you out of your ambitions, offering little in return so far. Remind yourself that defeatism will get you nowhere. Mindfulness, the here and now. This is an opportunity. You will make the most of it, if only to spite everyone who doubts your true worth. The flaring of whispers in the gallery hall breaks you out of your thoughts. Gregory enters the room, the jumpsuit clad inner vampire still staked in his shoulder. This show's about to start. Sophie's driver places his charge in the middle of the room and nods respectively to Kadir. The sheriff approaches the vampire and removes the stake from his chest. The cactus eyes flicker to life as he starts looking around in disbelief like a cornered animal. He backs out on all fours and keeps going in circles until he realizes he's trapped. Kadir steps on the man's chest and pins him to the floor. Why, who do we have here? Fuck. Oh shit, no, come on, don't. Silence. The sheriff takes an on the aura of utter dread. He appears as if he's a primal force of nature that's out to get you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do but shrivel in terror. The beast inside you shrieks, and you could swear it happens in unison with the instincts of some of the other guests here tonight. It's unlike anything you've experienced in his company, your turbulent first night as a vampire. He really did go on easy on you, all things considered. It seems like it takes all of the hoodlum's willpower to not crawl into the fetal position and start crying. No, please, don't hurt me, man. Don't. You and me are going to have a little talk downstairs at the prince's discretion. Please, go ahead, my sheriff. You heard the prince. Get up. Let's go. He doesn't wait for confirmation. He just grabs a man and drags him, kicking and screaming out of the room. Conversations start all around you, some whispered, some quite overheard. Sophie looks somewhat bored by the whole affair, her eyes wandering from art piece to art piece, clearly finding nothing in particular to her liking. So, what happens now? It'll be at least some time before Kadir gets the information he seeks out of this thug. Why not mingle while we wait for him to break? Excuse me. Sophie leaves your side and goes to a corner of the gallery where a group of kindred, some seemingly pretty old-fashioned, gathered. A concierge offers you a drink, still warm. It smells nice. Just a sip to start you off, a splash over the palate, coating your tongue on the inside of your cheeks. Nourishment. You're left to your own devices. You have a quick look around. Prince is currently talking to a dark-skinned woman that you recall seeing here those few nights ago. She has a cold but noble countenance to her. Their conversation seems to be casual. A loud, shrill laugh turns your attention to the bespectacled man who you saw with Sophie on the night of your judgment. He's making his rounds, chatting up different patrons. You feel somebody's eyes on you. A casually dressed, plain-looking man stands alone near a column, watching you. He turns his gaze away sheepishly when he realizes you've noticed. Let's talk to the bespectacled man. The man notices your attention, but takes a few minutes before he pauses his mingling for a look long enough to actually approach him. He looks at you quizzically. Thomas Archewell. Is that your name? I assumed you'd like to know. I know you, by name only, of course. Amanda? Embraced just a few nights ago. Huh. Well. How's that treating you? It takes some getting used to, for sure. Oh, it sure does. Sure does. Good thing we got an attorney to make the best of it, right? He takes a moment to clean his glasses, completely ignoring you until he's done. Puts them back on. I'm sorry. I got distracted. You know, most of us don't need to wear these, right? I can see just fine without them, but it's a statement. The damn things keep catching specks of dust and other assorted shit, though. Never stay clean for long. Sometimes I think they're more trouble than they're worth, wouldn't you say? They look good on you. Really? You bet they do. Alright, that was a nice chat, but I have to catch up with a few other fellows tonight. Talk to you later? Jeannie. Hey, Jeannie. He doesn't even give you a chance to say goodbye. He's already off, grabbing 2 glasses off the concierge's tray and handing one to a mustachioed man nearby. You notice Sophie is mingling among other kindred, clearly in her element and not to be disturbed. Kadir hasn't come back yet, so you can probably find time for at least one conversation. Talk to the prince. You approach the prince, trying to stay as respectful of her private conversation as possible. She glances at you as you step forward, her scrutinizing gaze mimicked by her companion. She addresses a dark-skinned woman before turning to you. Excuse me for just a moment, Samara. Yes, Amanda? What is it? I wish to thank you for sparing me, Prince. I realize it wasn't an easy decision to make, and I wanted to express my sincere appreciation. How thoughtful of you. She takes a long look at you before she continues. I didn't do it from the kindness of my unbeating heart. You are an asset to Miss Langley, to the Camarilla, and to me. I believe I made the right decision. Prove to me and the other kindred of the city that it was so, and there might be more to your future nights than just survival and servitude. The dark-skinned woman looks impatiently at you and catches the prince's attention. Forgive me, that's all the time I can spare right now. We have some things to discuss with Samara still. Enjoy your night, Amanda. And the same to you, Prince Panhard. The prince nods and turns back to the other woman to continue their conversation. A loud exchange near the staircase grabs everybody's attention. Kadir is back and the hoodlum is with them. The sheriff pushes the other vampire inside the room. The vampire that threatened you last night is a mess. That stupid hat is still inexplicably on his head, covering some of his ruined face in welcome shadow. He's barely conscious. His shin is broken. You think something protruding there, making the pant leg bulge. One arm seems twisted at a strange angle. Very little blood, surprisingly, but clearly a whole lot of hurt. Well, Kadir, did our guest cooperate? Tell the prince your name. It's Howard. And who do you run with, Howard? The Midnighters. And on our coterie, my prince. Active for some time now, though from what this one told me, the name is about the only legacy the group has kept over the years. I see. Hey, Prince, I didn't mean it. I didn't know. I didn't... A loud crack makes some of the guests audibly gasp as Kadir's slap dislocates the man's jaw. A spray of blood creates something like an abstract art piece on the floor. This one is guilty of threatening a member of the Camarilla and claiming a domain without the prince's approval. That alone would be enough to pass swift judgment, but he's also anarch scum. My prince, there can only be one verdict, final death. Do your duty, Sheriff. Unless, of course, somebody would like to play at being a good Samaritan like our dear Miss Langley a few nights ago. The look the prince serves you and Sophie is a cruel jest. Sophie takes it gracefully, smiling and slipping her arm under yours in a strange public show of affection. Nobody says anything. The vampire named Howard jumps to his feet and makes for the window. You have a feeling Howard's efforts are fruitless. Just a few seconds later, the feeling is confirmed. He almost reaches the window. Almost, but not quite. In what seems like a blink of an eye, Kadir appears first near his scabbard sword in one corner of the gallery, and then next to the escaping anarch on the opposite side of the room. The next moment, Howard's head flies off his body, baseball cap free. His lifeless body crumples to the ground and begins to decompose in real time. It's an uncanny sight. As always, our sheriff does not fail to impress. I would like to thank Miss Langley for bringing this anarch thug to my and Kadir's attention. I assume all have found the verdict satisfactory? It's a rhetorical question, and everybody here knows it. Then, I consider tonight's meeting concluded. Good night to all of you. She steps out of the room, and you see that many of the guests move to do the same. Sophie seems to be conversating with somebody, a serious-looking man in a trench coat, about what just transpired. You probably have the time to strike up a conversation of your own, too. Kadir El-Assami is still here, for one, but clearly getting ready to leave. Arturo is still here, chatting with the remaining attendants. For a moment, you think the man who was looking at you earlier left, but he's still here, keeping to himself in a secluded corner. The sheriff's mood seems to have improved. You decide you won't get a better shot at saying your piece. He's just sheathing his sword as you approach him. He notices you just before his face turns from a melancholic frown back to his regular predatory smirk. You seem to have caught him in a moment of reflection. What is it, Amanda? I wanted to thank you for bringing me here in one piece, for giving me a chance. The emotion creeps into Kadir's face that you haven't seen the chef exhibit yet. Is that gratitude? It's fleeting, only there for a moment, gone in the blink of an eye. I was trying on my nerves, and you were still far and away from proving that it was the right thing to do. So don't think that a few kind words will let you off the hook. I wonder, how does it feel to bring a lamb to the slaughter the way you did tonight? Do you feel any remorse? Regret? I'm going to enjoy guessing. If there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave. Tell me, do you enjoy this, being a sheriff for Prince Panhard? Enjoyment has something to do with this. It's my duty. When Calabros asked me to fill the shoes of sheriff and root out our enemies, I was glad to serve this act. When Helene became prince and asked that I keep doing this, I agreed, because I believe in the Camarilla, and I respect the fact that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. He picks up the sword and turns toward the stairs. If more kindred understood that, my job would be much duller, though. On that note, I wish you a good night. And watch yourself. You've messed up my batting average, so I'll be sure to keep a close eye on you. With that final threat, he leaves the gallery. It's right about when Sophie also ends her conversation and walks over to you. Interesting evening, wasn't it? Come, Gregory's waiting downstairs. She seems preoccupied with something, and not in a talkative mood. It's an awkward ride back to the city. This time you arrive at another building, just 2 streets across from your apartment. She brings you upstairs through a nice lobby and a luxurious looking hall in her domain. Please, have a seat. I shall be right with you. You take in your surroundings. The apartment is like a gallery, a gallery old school smoking room that you've seen in some period piece, and a Novorishis living room meticulously combined together. Apologies, old habits die hard. Clearly, some stick with you even after death. She drags on her cigarette and breathes out. Breathes. How is she doing that? Can you do that? Oh, yes, you might not know. It takes some practice, but you can keep smoking if you'd like. Other things, too. Experiment. You might surprise yourself. But I did not bring you here to show off. This is where I rest these nights. The door, in the back of the bedroom, similar to yours. I have servants and bodyguards in addition, of course. I brought you here because I need you to trust me. When I told you before that I need your best behavior to uphold my good standings with the court, I meant it. But that's not the whole story. I have your interest in mind, too. That's why I've given you your own haven, why I'm teaching you how to navigate this new reality. But you need to trust me, or else this won't work. You can come here whenever you feel like asking me something, when you're in trouble, too, though I hope that won't happen often. I would ask you to come here when you wake up tomorrow. I'll have something to discuss with you. Okay, I'll come over first thing tomorrow night. I appreciate that. That silence again. There was definitely something on Sophie's mind tonight, but she doesn't seem eager to share it with you just yet. I'm leaving for another visit. Come downstairs with me. We'll give you a lift. A quick trip, a promise that you'll show up tomorrow, and some polite goodbyes later. You open the door to your haven and gather your thoughts. It's exciting in a way, being dragged deeper and deeper into this secret society and its rules. Whatever Sophie has planned for you, it's bound to teach you more about this thing you have become. You sink into your vampiric sleep with just a sliver of hope. The welcome change. Once more, darkness falls upon the city. You wake up, same as you have these past few nights, in a windowless room. As you pry open the reinforced steel door, look out the window to see, invariably, a sky bereft of sunlight, and then it hits you, the hunger. For a moment, you let yourself wonder if there will ever come a night when it's just not there. Given what you've learned thus far, you probably have as much chance of kickstarting your heart with jumper cables. You lock the door behind you and head over to Sophie's apartment. You did promise to call on her. Might as well not keep the lady waiting. And hey, what else are you gonna do? You get in touch with your boss. He's probably looking for you, if only to scold you for the unintended files piling up on your desk. But what's he gonna do? Call the cops? Not worth the hassle. You're almost hoping the few coworkers that seem to give a shit about you were faking it. It would make things easier, a fresh start from the ground up, just like old times. These thoughts put you in a weird mood. A strange sensation to walk the crowded streets, same as you have so many times before, but feeling so disconnected. All these people, you're not one of them, not anymore. You're a vampire, kindred, and you need to carve your own path in this strange new existence one way or another. Appropriately enough, you arrive at Sophie's building just as that thought crosses your mind. A quick word with the security guard, and you're left into the elevator. Apparently, Miss Langley is expecting you. Of course she is. You knock and wait patiently as the footsteps on the other side grow closer. Finally, the door opens, and Gregory, Sophie's driver, invites you in. You find the lady herself standing at the window, silhouetted against the city's midnight glow. She stares out, motionless, like a marble statue. Good evening, Sophie. doesn't react immediately, but seems to snap out of some meditative state as she looks at you with strangely bleary eyes. Yes, good evening, Amanda. I was wondering, when you look out at the city, when you see the lights, hear the hum, smell the rain on the pavement, what do you think about? You gaze out. The lights and rain, the relentless honking below, music rattle blasting from a nearby window, echoing off the buildings. Someone should record an hour of this and throw it up on YouTube as an ambient piece. Other than that, though, it's business as usual. The sights, the sounds, the smells, you know them all too well. Sophie watches you. You can tell she's disappointed somehow, but she covers it up with a courteous smile. Well, not everyone can appreciate the intricacies that the world offers. In fact, among kindred, my clan is somewhat notorious for finding innate meaning, even in the mundane. You see, the blood that flows within me is that of a clan Toreator. There are 13 such bloodlines among kindred, though that number has been contested in the past, and these nights it seems that nothing is certain anymore. The clans have gone by many epitaphs over the years, but the names used these nights have their roots in medieval times, the original Inquisition, if you can believe it. They used these to categorize us, describe our inherent differences in time. We adopted them ourselves. Each clan has a uniqueness about it, inescapable, originating from an ancient progeny carried from sire to child. For the Toreator, the gift lies in a sensitivity of sorts. We are uniquely attuned to beauty and ugliness both. We can see either where most cannot. A blessing on most nights, occasionally a curse. The sheriff is one of my clan as well, although you'd be hard-pressed to see him as such. Poor Kadir. It breaks my heart to see him in this state. Still, there is a beauty to it as well. Nothing like a good fall from grace. Try she might to act playful, you can tell she genuinely cares. She lets her gaze wander for a brief moment, but is quick to regain her composure. Then there are the Ventru, known for their pride and proclivity to rule over others. The prince represents that clan and is quite common in our society around the globe. Where the Blue Bloods think themselves rulers, the Bruja like to think of themselves as preeminent revolutionaries. They call for a universal rebellion while being slaves to their own temper. We don't discuss the rabble much anymore, not after they've largely broken off like Camarilla. To think they were philosophers once long ago. I hope to tell you more about some of the other bloodlines tonight. Say I meet a vampire for the first time. How can I tell what their clan is? Usually, you cannot, with a few exceptions, perhaps. For some clans, the uniqueness I mentioned bleeds into their appearance or disposition, but even that can be misleading. Outside of very few specific cases, knowing one's clan is less important than understanding who they are personally, what drives them, their wants and needs, weaknesses too. Speaking of which, we come to the reason I wanted to speak with you tonight. It is customary in our society, among other kindred, to organizing to coteries. Sometimes these are called by the prince themselves or mandated by a fledgling sire. In our case, you may treat it as more of a strong recommendation. I want you to seek out companions, not only because you need to learn more about our society, but also because it is useful. True friendships are rare among kindred, but having allies, even temporary ones, is sometimes a necessity these nights. We might be selfish creatures, but we are drawn to each other nonetheless. So, tell me, are you part of a coterie? Any close allies? I do have those that I trust enough to work with, yes. Not a coterie exactly, though I have joined several of those over the years, not in over a century, though. You, however, you would do well to meet with some of the city's younger kindred and see if you can find a connection. It's an essential experience for one so young. She puts on a mysterious smile. I spent some of my precious time last night asking around, pondering potential kindred for you to meet. Came up with a short list of contacts. I hope you'll appreciate the gesture. Forging a partnership with them might offer perspectives and viewpoints that I cannot provide, lenses through which to view our kind. They are all members of the Camarilla, of course, more or less. Alright then, let's hear it. Who's on the list? Eager to learn about them, I see. Good. I'm glad. So let's start with the Termir. They are a powerful clan, disliked by many, but feared and respected by many more. This has been an important pillar of the Camarilla since the very beginning. They are blood sorcerers. Blood sorcerers! You flash back to one of those nights where your ex would stay up late playing video games. Not a pleasant connotation. Sophie snickers. Oh, child, don't be caught with that look on your face when you meet a warlock in person. They're really they really are adept at using Vitre, their own as well as others' unique and potent effects. Since they were quite rigid in their hierarchy, the kindred that I had in mind for you might need some persuading. His name is Agathon. From what I hear, he is quite the scholar, very ambitious, the child of a noted Tremere in New York, Aisling Sternbridge. Spend enough time with Agathon, and I'm sure you'll run into her sooner or later. So by getting to know this Agathon, I can get closer to someone higher up in the ladder. Yes, though not immediately, I would imagine. Aisling finds herself in a somewhat precarious position, both in the city and her clan. Every move she makes is heavily scrutinized. Thus, she has learned to tread lightly. Anyway, if you wish to contact the young Tremere, I hear you can usually find him in a New Age bookstore out on Broadway. The Tremere have one of those workshops there. Gregory will give you the details. Now, this next recommendation comes with a bit of a caveat. As you recall me saying, most bloodlines have unique features that might not be obvious at first glance. Well, there is one clan whose members wear their curse on their sleeve. The Nosferatu. The way she said it, you're pretty sure it should mean something to you. Other than sounding foreign, it doesn't ring any bells. No wonder they make their havens in sewers and abandoned buildings and such. Their appearance is hideous and obviously unnatural. Had they walked the streets like other kindred, the kind would have learned of our existence long ago. Did she just shudder? It's hard to tell with her usual complexion, but you swear her skin suddenly took on an even more sickly color. The one I have in mind isn't as big of an eyesore as the worst of them, but he's no Adonis either. Still, he has some talents and connections you might find useful. His name is D'Angelo, and he has an office, for lack of a better term, in an otherwise abandoned grain terminal in Red Hook, right next to one of those Swedish stores. The name escapes me, the ones with the awful furniture. What, IKEA? You mentioned D'Angelo has some useful connections. I was just getting to that. D'Angelo does odd jobs for a Coterie, digging up dirt, locating kindred who prefer to remain hidden, the kind of work the Nosferatu are best at. He's on a case right now, something to do with kind murders, I think. After your initial brush with our dear sheriff, I would think it would be wise to show some goodwill towards his agenda. Assisting D'Angelo with his investigation might just be the thing. She takes a brief pause to look out the window again. Now come the two more exotic proposals. Exotic, as if the blood mage and the vampire detective were business as usual. You may have heard about the Gangro before. They are a wild clan, in touch with their beasts in a way others might not dare to attempt. They mostly keep out of big cities, but there are exceptions. Nominally, they haven't been a part of the Camarilla for over 2 decades, but the one kindred I would like you to meet has strong, shall we say, familial ties to her sect. Her name is Tamika. Her sire, Jezebel, was instrumental during the Battle of New York back in 1999, the very same battle that cemented the city as a Camarilla domain. Sadly, her achievements have gone largely unrecognized. Let me make sure I didn't miss something there. Nope, okay. Tamika and a number of her siblings still reside in the domain they were awarded after the battle, Prospect Park. Jezebel herself left the city some years ago, fed up with being underappreciated. You seem to know a lot about her sire, but is there anything else you can tell me about Tamika? I asked around. Out of all of Jezebel's children, Tamika is known to be the most rational, cool-headed, at least for a Gangro. That said, she's likely to have a unique way of appraising your worth. I cannot say how exactly, but you should be prepared for an interesting conversation at the least. Then again, that could be said of almost every kindred in this city. There's that mysterious smile again. So, you see, seeking out Tamaka could prove quite educational if nothing else. And who knows, perhaps you'll find her temperament to be a wholesome change of pace. But speaking of a change of pace, I have one last suggestion for you, though it's one I don't make lightly. The kindred who calls herself Hope. She's a Malkavian, and they're a uniquely cursed clan. For centuries, we considered them mad, insane, unhinged. But those of us who spend enough time with them come to understand the truth. It's no sickness, but a unique perception of the world that has them appear to be as unstable, to us as unstable, and that perception can prove to be very valuable. Having a Malkavian as your companion might be taxing on the nerves and the true test of patience at times, but her insight and intuition are unrivaled among kindred. As for Hope specifically, she is said to be a recluse, but I have on good authority that she can currently be found in an internet cafe, I believe it's called, in Lower Manhattan. Gregory has the address. Where'd you hear about her? Where did you learn about her exactly? One of my colleagues told me about her. He considers her uniquely talented and tapped into the current fads among kind. Not something I'm personally interested in, as I'm sure you know by now. I take his word for it at any rate. Well, I believe that's all of them. I still have a few social calls to make tonight, so I'll leave you to it. Use tonight and tomorrow night to arrange some cordial visits of your own. I will send Gregory for you as soon as I have further need of your services. Oh, that reminds me. You will need a car. Join us downstairs, won't you? She smiles once more and turns to her driver. He helps her out of her coat, and the three of you put on her coat, and the three of you leave Sophie's apartment. Sophie points to one of the cars near the building as Gregory hands you the keys. It's a rather inconspicuous compact car, a decent-looking, if not luxurious ride. Stay safe, Amanda. This is your first night alone. Don't let it be your last. As they drive away, you find yourself with more freedom than you've had for the past few nights. A blessing or a burden? Time will tell. With a list of addresses in hand, you consider your next move. Sophie's mention of the vampire clan of blood sorcerers sparked your attention. One of them, Agathon, could potentially be your introduction into a bizarre power of the Tremere. Oh, Hope. You are interesting. What I remember about Malkavians is one of my friends, they play a Malkavian when they actually LARP in Vampire, and they're insane. They either do Malkavian or Bruja, and it's insanely fascinating just how some people play them. I do love a good Malkavian. I want to go for the Tremere first, Malkavian. This is probably the Nosferatu. Wow, you are ugly. Oh, this is going to be interesting. All right. Let's go for the Blood Sorcerer. Let's go do some magic. You arrive at the address given to you by Sophie, a small bookstore smack dab in the middle of Broadway of all places. What really catches you off guard, though, is the store's display. From what you've heard about the Tremere, they are infamous for their ties to the occult and the mystical. And yet, now looking at the outbow collection of items in the display window, it all feels borderline satirical. The books here cover everything from Audrovic practices and homeopathy to wellness and self-motivation. The vaguely amusing juxtaposes don't end there either. You notice a copy of Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible tucked behind a cheap smiling Buddha. A scientific journal on hematology, wow, sits next to a teen-oriented pamphlet on the blood type personality theory. A number of religious and quasi-religious symbols, lockets, pins, and various emblazoned paraphernalia are haphazardly strewn across the display, and between the tomes. Before you even open the door, you can smell the burning incense and hear the corny Far Eastern tinged music seeping through the cracking speaker mounted above the entrance. It's much more quaint than you would have expected from what Sophie told you about the so-called warlocks. It doesn't look like they have much interest in impressing outsiders. Then again, if there's anything you've learned these past few nights is that appearances can be deceiving. At this time of night, the shop appears to be closed. Regardless, you ring the bell. You hear someone shuffling around inside. A brief moment later, the latch slides and the door is pushed open just a few inches. A tired-looking blonde in loose clothes appears in the crack. She seems confused, like you just woke her up. She lets out a yawn, scratching her tattooed neck. Finally, she squints in your general direction. Her pierced lip curves in an awkward smile. Is Agathon in? I'm looking for a guy named Agathon. Is he around? The girl gives you a suspicious look over, but opens the door. She takes a few steps back, and you hear footsteps coming from behind a floral curtain that covers the back door. Give me 1 second. A bespectacled, smart-looking woman emerges and looks straight at you. Come in and follow me, but just don't touch anything, please. You follow through the store. Inside, as expected, the stuffy air smells of sandalwood, frankincense, and a dozen other aromas. The woman leads you behind the curtain and through the back door, onto a rickety staircase. A flight of steps takes you up to the second story. You instantly notice the change in decor as the tacky new age bookstore gives way to something resembling a cross between a library and a workshop. The smell here is strong too, but much more layered. You're not sure what to make of it at first, but with each whiff it becomes apparent. Blood. The aroma, though subtle at first, soon becomes overpowering. It takes you a moment to adapt and focus. I don't think you know who you're speaking with, so introduction is in order. My name is Aisling Stonebridge. I am the High Regent of the Chantry of the Five Boroughs. You are Amanda, correct? I have to say you're lucky the ward outside the building is only there for notifications tonight. Otherwise, it would have been quite unpleasant. To answer your question, Agathon is here, but he's hard at work and I wouldn't want to disturb him. Am I to understand this is a social visit? Wait, how do you know who I am? Well, for one thing, knowing who's who in the city is one of my duties as High Regent. But more importantly, you've been on the mind of many kindred since Langley took you in. It's quite a predicament, as I'm sure you know. First under Prince Panharn, and for Sophie to be the one to do it. Curiouser and curiouser. I'm sure you haven't come here to look for dirt on your sire. That would be unwise. Sophie suggested I should meet Agathon. She said he's quite knowledgeable. Did she now? Aisling looks you up and down. Her countenance seems unchanged, but you can tell she's judging what you said. That's new. Suddenly, a man enters from a side room. He doesn't even look at you, lost in his own thoughts. I have it, Aisling. I think I know how to find it. He catches himself as he notices you. His face turns sour. Visitor. Yes, we were just discussing you, in fact. Is that so? Yes, Sophie Langley recommended that I contact you about teaming up. Teaming up? He seems very confused by the notion. What for? I could assist you in your work. I can be quite helpful, knowing I can count on someone to return the favor. Is that right? He seems to consider it, then turns to Aisling. My Regent, may I consider your advice on this? She looks you over as if judging your worth. It takes her just long enough to make you feel uncomfortable. When she takes her eyes off you, she addresses Agathon. Do you feel like you need assistance in your task, my child? I am confident I can do it on my own. He pauses, hesitating for a second. But I do believe it is important enough to warrant outside help, even if only for a single night. Another brief moment of hesitation. Of course, the details would remain between you and I, sire. Agreed, on all points. Why don't you start by giving our intern here a brief explanation of what it is you're after? Agathon gives Aisling a hesitant look, but the woman nods approvingly. Encouraged, he turns towards you. A member of our clan disappeared without a trace, and 4 nights ago. While the High Regent investigates if any foul play was involved, I have been tasked with recovering her research notes, if there is anything left to recover, that is. I may have an idea where to start looking, and I suppose this is where you come in. If you truly wish to help, I could use your assistance tonight. Right now, in fact, given the time we just wasted on idle chatter, I would leave immediately. What's the research about? That research sounds pretty important. What's it about? A single glance at Aisling is enough. You can tell you're not getting an answer, at least for now. It's important to us, and that's all you need to know. These people aren't in the habit of making things simple. Facing layers upon layers of secrecy, you can only hope that what lies beneath is the real deal. I'm heading out. Are you coming or not? Sure, I'll join you. Very well. He gives Aisling a slight bow. Regent, with your permission? She nods. Before you go, however, Amanda, defer to Agathon in all things. Our clan values obedience above everything else. Prove you can follow, and this might turn into a mutually beneficial relationship. I will await his return, and his report. Good luck, my child. Agathon bows and heads out, urging you to follow. The High Regent watches you leave. Outside, Agathon leads you to his car. It's almost funny seeing him get behind almost funny seeing him get behind a wheel. Somehow you'd expect a more mystical means of transportation. He drives south, heading the Lower East Side. Agathon seemed lost in thought. Either that, or he's a very careful driver. Either way, several minutes pass in silence. I mean, if you're not going to talk... he just looked angry. You decide not to disturb his thoughts, and are surprised when it's him who breaks the silence, as you're about halfway over the East River. Let me ask you something. Why me? There's likely a couple hundred of us kindred in New York, yet you seek me out specifically. Why? For one, Sophie spoke highly of you. She gave me a short list of people to meet. You were on it. I see. Once more he grows silent. You're unsure whether to continue prying as your driver seems to disappear into his thoughts. You drive into Williamsburg and stop by a fancy-looking building. We're here. There's a restaurant on the top floor. You wanted to help? So here's your chance. I need you to get us inside the VIP lobby. You recognize the place. It's where you were embraced a mere few nights back. Funny how this restaurant is apparently a vampire magnet. You recognize the place. It's where you were... Yeah, a vampire magnet. Once we're in, I need about half an hour to focus and some space. It'll be up to you to keep attention away from the room. Can you do it? He doesn't wait for an answer and points to the front door. Go ahead. I'll be right behind you. The two of you take the elevator up to the restaurant. The door opens and you see that there are only a few guests left sitting in their tables. An important-looking staff member approaches you. Good evening. I'm very sorry, but the restaurant is closing for the night. I can make a reservation for next week if you wish. Do I want to use my ability? Yeah. Oh, but we insist you let us enter the VIP lobby and stay there for as long as we like. But of course, please, come in. You walk in, trying to look casual, and make your way towards the VIP lobby. You step inside and close the door behind you. This is a familiar sight, the same place where you had your last meal as a mortal. Strange, you should feel something, but the lavishly decorated room looks almost plain to you. Companion looks at you with something akin to admiration, or at least that's how you chose to interpret the slight change in his usual somber facade. Not bad at all. He inspects the room. The usually cold and It's unusually cold, and Agathon soon discovers why. Looking behind the curtain, a window hangs open. The handle and lock look like they've been dissolved, as if with acid. God damn it, Juno. Who's Juno? How about I tell you some other time? He takes a frantic look about the room. This changes things. Keep an eye on the door. I'll need some time, half an hour at the very least. Nobody disturbs me, understand? He hastily pushes a couch and some potted plants out of the way, moves a bar stool, and takes out a curved knife, cutting into his own arm. He lets some of his blood drip onto the wooden floor. It's pretty fucked up, the way his flesh oozes in that deep red. Thick. In life, you'd have found it stomach churning, but right now you feel weirdly turned on by the sight. What follows is more disturbing yet. With one hand, he sheathes a knife and seals the wound. With the other, he smears the blood around him while muttering some weird chant. It sounds vaguely Latin, but you're pretty sure it isn't. It's all more than a little disconcerting, but he seems to know what he's doing. A few moments later, the circle starts glowing faintly as thin wisps of smoke surround Agathon. He sits down in the middle, legs crossed, eyes closed. Minutes pass. Agathon's face twitches from time to time, and as his head turns every now and then, as if he was looking around or listening in on a conversation. The smoke grows thicker, forming a veil around the mage. You expect something more flashy, but it's still a sight to behold. You wonder what the point of it is, but refrain from asking. It's probably best to let Agathon do his thing. For close to 30 minutes, you're left to your own devices. Suddenly the door swings open and the manager storms in, ready to raise hell. The initial haze must have worn off quicker than usual. If I calm him down, he'll want in. If I argue with him, we can fight. You start a shouting match with the manager. He seems almost happy to oblige. You can tell he's dealt with problematic customers before. You go back and forth for a while until his face becomes red and his voice grows hoarse. At some point, he looks just about ready to throw the first punch. That's when Agathon finally gets up from the floor. He shakes his head and casually walks over to the sofa, picking up something from between the cracks of the upholstery. We're done here. Let's go. Who the hell do you think you are? Get out of my restaurant this instant! Not wanting to make the situation any worse, you walk out sheepishly. The manager follows you all the way to the elevator, shouting and cursing. Agathon doesn't seem particularly fazed by any of this. The restaurant staff throw you some curious glances as you walk towards the elevator, but wisely decide not to bother you. The ride down feels tense. You half expect to see a police car waiting outside. Agathon only seems to relax once you're back in his car. He starts the engine and takes a right at the Continental Army Plaza, right onto the bridge towards Manhattan. You're just about to say something, but Agathon beats you to it. That went better than expected, all things considered. It might have been a trick of the light, but you're pretty sure you just saw a smile. I'm used to working alone, but what I'm dealing with right now, it might require some assistance, and you seem capable enough. So, I'm guessing you found what you came for? Sort of. Enough to continue the search at any rate. That seemed to deplete his social battery for the night. You drive the rest of the way in silence. It doesn't take you long to reach the Warlock's hideout. Agathon waits you absent-mindedly, once again lost in his thoughts. Hopelessly so. One of these nights, you should probably take him up on his offer. Who knows if you gain his trust, maybe you can actually break through this stoic facade and meet the man underneath. Oh, I need to rest. Well, then let's rest! You notice something strange by the front door of your haven. A letter's been slipped under the door in a cream-colored, old-fashioned envelope. There's no name on it, but you know it's meant for you. Opening the letter, it's clear it's been sent by someone incredibly old-fashioned, rich, or a fan of classic stationery. No normal person sends letters like this. The note is short and terse, written in elegant, delicate handwriting. You're cordially invited to a rendezvous at the Cathedral of John the Divine. I'll be waiting to make your acquaintance tomorrow night. Look for me closer to God. There's no other information. It looks like you have a mysterious invitation for the following night. I I don't know if I trust you. You could be a vampire hunter for all I know. But then there's hope. And she's a Malkavian. It's a quiet, moody internet cafe. It's a quiet and moody internet cafe. Half of its space serves as a comfy coffee bar these days. Out behind a glass wall, it still has a space dedicated to rows of PCs. From the street, you can notice tired adults in casual clothing typing away absentmindedly, and some bored kids wasting the late evening hours on colorful online games. If Sophie's intel is to believe, that this is where Hope has set up her haven. One of the waiters is standing outside the building, gazing at the sky with a smartphone in one hand and a vape in the other. You approach a man and tell him, I'm looking for Hope. I'm looking for Hope. Yeah, aren't all of us, bro? He releases a soft chuckle. Yeah, you and me both. The man slowly takes a drag from his sizing you up and down in silence. After a long, awkward moment, when you're ready to leave, he raises his voice again. Come, right this way. He heads back into the cafe and you follow his lead. When you make your way through the space with computer, when you make your way through the space with computers, no one averts their gaze from the spreadsheets, emails, Facebook profiles, or games of Fortnite. It's a common sight, one you wouldn't have paid much attention to a few weeks ago, but now it seems so unnervingly quaint. Would they still be spending their time like this if they were immortal? The waiter unlocks an unassuming door at the end of the room and lets you inside. You two swiftly make your way through the labyrinth of sterile gray corridors, taking confusing twists and turns. Feels like you're traveling into a different world, crossing one invisible portal after another. Eventually, you reach your destination. Your guide motions you to enter the dark room with a lone source of pale light, a computer screen, in the distance beckoning you to come closer. As you do, you hear the door shutting behind you, your back, and a short chuckle echoing behind it. Is this a place? Nothing else to do but sit on a chair in front of the computer. The monitor displays a modern chat application. A cursor is blinking on the username entry field in the middle of the screen, obviously expecting you to input your handle. After a brief consideration, you type in... I mean, might as well be honest, right? Amanda. Better play it straight and prove you have nothing to hide, as a gesture of goodwill. After a few seconds, a chat window opens and messages start appearing on the screen in quick succession. Just to be clear, I don't have a wank rig. LMAO. Oh, for sure. Oh, no, for real. LMAO was meant for Jerry. OFC, not much longer. Yeah, Jerry is the chat MVP. I mean, I've admitted to far worse things on here. God, I'm so horny. Not sure why I have to lie about this one. Oh my god, literally no one cares. You and me both, bozo. Wait, who is Amanda? Amanda? No idea. A new user, wasn't here a second before. What the hell was anyone informed? No announcement. I know I wasn't. Question. Amanda, identify yourself. Within 2 minutes or get banned. The chat goes silent, everyone seemingly waiting for you to say something before proceeding. This must be a close-knit group. Better say something before they kick you out. I'm looking for Hope. Is she here? Who the fuck are you? This was meant to be a safe channel, investigating what went wrong. How did they even get in here? Stay calm. Can you get their location, Jerry? LOL. Yeah, sure. That's her, Jerry. Gonna DM it to everyone interested. Oh boy, now you're in trouble. Yeah, no, you're gonna you're gonna regret, dumbass, the day you decided to spy on us. Is this? This is literally every uh chat, internet chat message group I've ever been in, especially Discord. Uh, I have no power over this. Calm down. Fuck off. That one guy brought me here. Doubtful. Thought this was where I could meet Hope. Yeah, I'm calling bullshit. Jerry, how are things on your end? Got the info. Nice. You want to die, asshole? You will die. You will die. 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 Sentenced to death for a shitty name their mom gave them. Tough shit. I'm literally on my way to kill you right now. Yeah, sorry to inform you, you're about to die. Rip bitch. You're getting your throat slit right here, right now. A split second after you read the message, you feel someone's arms tightening around your neck. The violent return of reality catches you off guard. A jolt of panic rushes through your brain, paralyzing you momentarily. You've come to the wrong chat room, motherfucker. A ridiculous whisper rings out next to your ear, and the grip under your head gets even tighter. You start struggling, but even with your newfound supernatural strength, you're having trouble breaking out. This isn't a normal human you're dealing with. Last words. Your chat room sucks. Sophie sent me. Sophie sent me here. Langley? The hand holding your chin shifts its position slightly. Don't struggle, or I will break your windpipe. Or my phone. Which would end even worse for you. Sounds of a camera shutter and light flashing. Did they just take some selfies with you? Alright, that's enough fun. I'm letting you go. We can talk. Don't do anything stupid, Miss Intruder. Pretty please. The mysterious assailant loosens their grip on you and gently pushes you away. You quickly turn to take a good look at them. Oh, I love your shirt. Let me just finish this. It's a pale blonde woman in her 20s, giving you a slightly judgmental look while rapidly tapping away at her phone screen. First, you notice her outrageous outfit, seemingly thrown together from random thrift store finds. Then, you take note of her tattoos, a sprawling tapestry of odd patterns and designs covering every visible part of her body. At first glance, it seems aimless, but it has a consistent sense of style upon closer inspection. Her eyes focus on you for a second. Gave you a scare, huh? Sorry, that's what you get for entering a lady's haven without her permission. And she's back on her phone with her relatively small build. It's hard to believe you had trouble overpowering her physically. Then again, nothing is what it seems when it comes to the undead, and even compared to the vampires you've met so far, she comes off as an eccentric, curious presence. She shoots you another glance, noticing you're still cautious of her. Calm yourself, girl. I wouldn't pull anything like this anymore. It was just feel stupid saying it out loud. A vibe check. Vibe check? Vibe check? Vibe check. Vibe check. Yeah, I got a glimpse of your vibe on the internet, and in a dangerous situation, I'd say I've got a pretty good idea about who you really are. I'm Hope, by the way. If you're here, you've probably heard of me, so I went ahead and skipped the pleasantries. But come to think of it, I might have skipped too many of those. Yeah, she definitely fits the description you were given by Sophie. Anyway, don't worry about the chat. It was all a game to us. No hard feelings, okay? I'll introduce you properly later. On the monitor, the chatter continues normally. You visit your visit like it's yesterday's news, no longer relevant to anything. But look, if we're gonna talk about you, you should have something to say too. What are you doing here? About time, she asked. Note to self: she really loves the sound of her own voice. Langley sent me. Sophie Langley sent me here. Hope rolls her eyes. Yeah, you said that already. You think I'm an idiot or something? I'm going to say this only once. Please, please, please don't be boring. She starts tapping at her phone again. After a few seconds, some kind of realization dawns on her face as she turns back to you. Wait. Shit, are you the new Langley plaything? Word seemed to be getting around fast. Of course you are. It was obvious the second Langley got her hands on a new servant, she'd start building a network. Your emissions tell me that would really come in handy but Langley, that's a risky game. This kind of ambition attracts too much attention. It's off. But then again, She seems to be having a spirited argument with herself, only parts of it audible. Is it just you, or do her facial expressions and body language change a bit between one sentence and the other? Before you make certain it's not just her eyes playing tricks on you, she focuses on half of her attention back on you. The other half, of course, is still obsessed with her smartphone. Listen, I'm not saying I'm interested in cooperation, but before I make a decision, I need to make sure you sort of understand me and that I sort of understand you. And since I was planning to put on a show before you came here, I propose a little game. Hope absentmindedly spins her phone in her hand, considering how to put her thoughts into words. Then she approaches a switch on the wall and flicks it. Neon lights flare up, illuminating the room. You take a look around. The room is certainly unique. It looks like a butcher's room, repurposed to be a living space. The modern computer in front of you starkly contrasts the ominous industrial walls. At the back, there's an overwrought bed covered in velvet and meat hooks hanging above it. On top of the bed sheets, you notice what seem to be pieces of elaborate S&M equipment. Camera. Wait a minute. You want my help? Moderate my cam show. Cam show? Your eyebrows twitch involuntarily. This is definitely not the request you expected to hear tonight. She notices your confusion. This isn't going to get me banned for Twitch TOS, is it? Well, it's been a good run, guys. Take it or leave it, buddy. You just became a kindred. But you want to become my partner in crime? Show me you can handle yourself while watching my back in everyday environment. She's serious. The show starts in 10 minutes. If you think yourself better than this, better walk out the door right now. I won't hold a grudge. I've got better things to do. As if to prove it, she looks at something displayed on her phone and cracks a brief grin. Another reply typed down with absurd speed. Tap, 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 tap. 9 minutes. It's now or never. Show moderator. Risk of violating the Masquerade? Hi. Content warnings? Oh, yes. So, do you take the job? Why the hell not? Hope brightens up and her smile looks surprisingly sincere. Excellent. I promise you might find this interesting in more ways than one. Alright, give me a second. Make sure I didn't actually miss something. Nope. She spends some minutes setting up the computer you used before, then urges you to sit down. The explanation of the moderator's functionalities is simple. It boils down to ignoring anyone who doesn't disturb the chat, banning anyone who does, and kicking anyone who's causing minor trouble. 5 minutes later, she's already online, sitting on her bed in a provocative pose. It is a sex show, isn't it? Her voice, previously hushed, rings out with full force. How are you doing tonight, hopefuls? You peek at the chat. We're not worthy, Queen. Fucking A. Angel, crying face. Hell yeah, time to fuck. Ignore. You're tempted to try out the cake and band prompts as soon as possible, but obviously you won't punish someone for a little dirty talk. Thank you. Today's show is quite special. Please welcome our new moderator, Amanda. LMAO. LMAO. Oh. Who? LMAO, sorry for sentencing you to death earlier. At least the community here seems to be a bit more welcoming this time. Looks like this place has an established hazing ritual. Or maybe they and Hope came up with one specifically for you. Who knows? You decide to stay silent. Eventually, people stop riffing on you and focus entirely on the star of the show. Alright, let's start with this one. This one with a bang, shall we? With a bang. It begins. Queen! Oh boy, she's going to do it! So this is where the strip show starts. You raise your head, curious about what kind of performance she's going for. First, she opens her mouth to reveal her retractable fangs in front of the camera. Right off the bat, the online audience is treated as to a sight of her wholly human set of teeth turning into a monster's maw. The image is both revolting and fascinating. She raises her left wrist for everyone to see, and then bites. The fangs immediately turn her arm into a horrifying, gory mess. It's unclear if she's used them to slash or bite, but one thing's for sure, no ordinary human could cause such damage. If an ordinary human suffers such a wound, you'd expect a geyser of blood to appear too, but it doesn't. Hope's technically a corpse, so it's impossible. She flashes a monstrous smile and starts smearing vitae all over her hand to maximize the impact of the violent image. Then she starts drinking it up. She makes it a point to make the sight as gruesome as possible, looking like a hyena feasting on a corpse. The contrast of her behavior with her look of an Instagram model is stunning. When she's done, she reveals her wrist to the camera for the last time. She starts making theatrical gestures with her right hand as the wound begins to mend. Shortly after, the wound is gone. It's like a magician's trick. Her left hand looks like nothing bad ever happened to it. Here's an appetizer. First blood to kick off the show. While you're wondering what the hell is going on, Hope catches a glimpse of your bewildered face and turns it into your direction. How's that for an opening? You're shooting snuff. This isn't a sex show? Sex? What? Were you counting on me getting naked in front of you or something? Oh, honey, we've just met each other. If you expected a strip show, yeah, sorry to disappoint. This is more like a, live stream digital art. The erotic subtext is there, of course. You peek at the chat. They're going wild. She did that! For free! I'd love to lick your wrist clean from my fallen angel. Haha, yes! Nothing more arousing than a beautiful woman teetering on the edge of oblivion, a rose petal dancing in the eye of the violent hurricane. I hate that. But eroticism is not the key here. It's vampirism. It's a new frontier, a living art installation in the early 90s. A Japanese artist kept producing these videotapes with beautiful women committing gory harakiri. Those are an inspiration. She bares her fangs again in a devious grin. But I've no interest in auto-destruction or turning myself into a victim. This is a celebration of a body I love, not self-inflicted punishment. The audience came here to marvel at a beautiful vampire and her awe-inspiring powers. Mending wounds is just one of these powers. The people watching can pay to see more. Oh, and don't worry. The only things the audience can see and hear are the things I allow them to. We can talk freely. Just remember to moderate the chat, will you? High risk of violating the Masquerade. What a joke. She's blatantly breaching it in front of anonymous viewers. Still speechless, you turn your attention to the screen. Boy, guapa. Alright, I'm feeling generous today. Have you planned your next tattoo yet? I'll pay for the next attraction. Looking like a pink marshmallow covered in raspberry sauce. Thirsty Viking, just letting you know you're based. I know. You let the guy vent his excitement. Seems harmless. A special message appears on the chat log, claiming somebody has successfully sponsored the first goal of the show. Hope smiles and picks up a bag of blood from underneath the bed. It must have been retrieved from a blood bank. She showcases a label to the camera for everyone to see. Drink up, drink up, drink up, heart, drink up, heart, heart, heart. Hope pours all the contents of the bag into her throat. You have no doubt it's real blood, but wonder why the viewers would be so satisfied with something like so easy to fake. There's a dog barking outside. Don't worry, it pays well enough. You don't even bother to tell her this is not what you're thinking about. Safe to assume she knows. So, what do you know about the kindred and the internet? Have they told you anything? While she's waiting for someone to sponsor her next vampiric feat, she decides to start a conversation. Is there a vampire internet? If you find something that looks like a vampire internet, stay away. See, some of us used to experiment with our own secure networks. We tried to build our own information hubs, social networks, everything. She's still working on the phone in one hand, while looking for something under the bed with the other. On how many things can she concentrate at one time, exactly? Then one day the NSA got in. Turns out our elders never really got the hang of proper security practices, or the sigils they used to smear on their screens didn't exactly work as advertised. Then, of course, all the other three-lettered intelligence agencies in the world got the intel, and a lot of them decided bloodsuckers were the perfect new enemy for our post-9/11 times. The Second Inquisition came into being. Ever heard of it? Nope, but here we go. The Second Inquisition, often abbreviated as SI, a collective name among vampires for the recent coordinated efforts of intelligence agencies to combat the kindred as if they were a terrorist threat. Few individual agents understood that what they were fighting, and the intra-agency collaboration, codenamed First Flight, placed enormous import on keeping their operations secret and disguised as ordinary anti-terrorism action. So vampire hunters. A lot of our kind died just because they were too present online. Right now, the remains of our old networks serve as government honeypots, kept alive to attract fledglings and hunt them down. You post a certain keyword on Twitter or Facebook, you get tagged for investigation. You fit certain patterns, you get tagged for investigation. So there is a certain thrill in becoming an online presence without attracting attention from the authorities. She stretches on the bed. I hope you're still monitoring the chat. Of course not. You're not as good at dividing your attention as she is. You correct your mistake and check the recent messages. Thirsty victim. Aw, is she talking to somebody? Can't wait for the real thing to start. This 2-monitor setup rules. Call of Duty on one screen, drop dead hotness on the second screen. The only woman I don't hate. Hope has more like what? Kick. You give the guy a kick. Get yourself a normal nickname, douchebag. After 10 seconds, he's back within the same handle. Time for decision. Ignore or ban. I mean, if you're gonna be a dick, this kind of nickname only suggests trouble. You get rid of him permanently. Good job. She's keeping close tabs on you. Anyway, yeah. When the Nosferatu admitted to Camarilla, their network got compromised. The elders went batshit insane. Internet communications became strictly forbidden. There were executions. A lot of people who used their social media to secretly contact their mortal families and lovers got offed. That goes without saying. But if you weren't careful, even the most innocent web usage could result in being punished with final death. Thanks to user Dick Stell, the next goal has just gotten successfully funded. Turtle Guy, let's go! Vanishing Act. Dehumanize yourself and face the bloodshed. What? She raises her hand. 3 fingers up. 2 fingers up. 1 finger up. The countdown ends and she immediately disappears from the screen, like a ghost. You can still see her on the bed, but the live feed indicates there's nobody there. When you deeply focus on the digital image, you swear you can make out some unusual glitching where her silhouette should be, but it could very well just be a placebo. You ready for this? 3, 2, 1. A flash of the camera the instant she reappears on the screen. She takes a selfie, sticking her tongue out in a provocative manner. The chat room explodes in cheers again. She is their vampire queen. You briefly wonder about her being glued to the screen. Is this the fantasy everyone is here for? A girl showing off cheap magic tricks while lazily browsing her social media? You realize you're way out of your depth here. Meanwhile, Hope decides to continue her lecture. Those were some wild times, especially New York. While most of them have no clue as to what our real nature, a lot of clandestine organizations have classified us as national threats, and since this is where the towers fell, the agencies are very much present around here, looking for easy PR victories. The last SI raid here was just a few years ago, and it was a big one, stirred up the hornet's nest something fierce. But although it's 2019, NYC is ruled by someone who got embraced before World War II, and the cam as a whole got really spooked and swore off the internet. Of course they're not dumb. They understand that you can't really coexist with modern kind without the internet. It's a gray zone right now, like piracy, technically frowned upon, but let the one without sin cast the first stone. The SI is a real threat, no joke, but in many senses, the darkest place is right under the candle. You take another look at the screen. We want blood. How about some bat stuff? Can you do some bat stuff? Can you show us next time? It's been a long, hard day. Please give me a shout out. Familiar nickname pops up. Hey, kick. You give the guy a kick for spamming the chat. The message is deleted so fast, Hope might not even have noticed. A duty carried out well. You're surprised to feel an inkling of pride. Oh yeah, fun fact about being a vampire. We can sweat and pee if we just exert ourselves really hard. Some of us can even orgasm. We can even cry, but only tears of blood. It's something I really dreamed of doing when I was 14. So romantic, and it drives them crazy. As proof of her words, a scarlet tear starts running down her face. The chat goes wild. This seems to be the exact kind of thing they've been waiting for. Ah! An angel that fell down from heaven. Crying faces. Oh my god, she did it again. Beatific. Hope your tortured soul finds some calm eventually. Can you imagine USA assembling blood-sucking squad that would just cruise by the border and suck blood out of any illegal they found? The very thought gives me the biggest boner. And kick. Just to be clear, you realize what we're doing here is a blatant breach of the Masquerade, right? I honestly expected you to believe or inform somebody by now, but you haven't, have you? You try to focus on the chat. A familiar nickname is displayed on the screen. Masochist-sama, stop. Holy shit. Bruh. Dude. You need to calm down. This isn't... You're banned. Ban Mr. Masochist. Looks like Mr. Masochist needs a longer break. After you ban him, you hear Hope's voice. Good job handling that guy. Great. If nothing else works out, seems like you fit this job at the very least. In any case, the last goal has just been funded. It's time for the great finale. This is what you've been waiting for, right? Yes, queen! Yes, queen! Yes, queen. Her voices change. She gets closer to the camera, letting her face fill the frame of the live feed. Her mesmerizing eyes are focused purely on the viewers. You wanted blood to come out into the streets, claw out your neighbors' throats, slash their veins, and drink up. Yes, queen. Yes, queen. Yes, queen. Hope's presence becomes absolutely horrifying as it influences the chat in some incomprehensible way. Everyone starts typing like they were possessed. Liberate yourselves from the shackles of ordinary mortality. Make them scream. Feel the warmth of their entrails. What the hell is she doing to those people? What have you gotten yourself into? Transcend your body to release the message of hope into the world. She jerks violently for a second and then falls down on the bed like a marionette that just had its strings severed. She exhales loudly a few times and laughs. When she does, the room goes dark again. Alright, that's enough. Instead of continuing, she does something with her phone. The stream ends and the chat instantly becomes dead quiet. Let me take over. The atmosphere in the room has completely changed. She's already put herself together and stood up. Now she's walking towards you. Vulgar, what the fuck just happened? Guess the show's over. Everyone relax and go home. Aw, and I was almost ready to come, bros. Hostage, I swear on my grandfather's grave, one day I will find you and kick your ever-living shit out of you. After every line she delivers, she changes her voice, the way she puts her lips together, and even the way she moves. You caught glimpses of her acting this way, but only now have you started to figure it out. Wait a minute, does that mean, Malkavian, that's right. I'm immortal. I'm bored. I'm separated from most vampires in the city by a generational chasm, and I'm so goddamn lonely the internet used to be my only friend. Years ago, I started researching Tupla, collective unconsciousness, all the mumbo-jumbo at the intersection of psychology and spirituality, and decided to experiment. The show was fake. A few years later, I was on an Instagram fashionista, a successful erotic model, a virtual pop culture commercial commentariat, a virtual shit poster, a viral shit poster, a cryptocurrency expert. All of my internet slaves started signal boosting each other, paving the way for new ones. I became a one-woman empire surrounded by legions of psycho fans. The chat was fake. Some may think of me as a dissociative identity disorder, but that's bullshit. Everyone has online alter egos they buried. I just resurrected them, gave birth to new ones, and then let them crossbreed. Her constant tapping at the phone, even during the show. Somehow she is capable of impersonating an entire chat room. I don't even have a self that could disassociate or be mentally ill. I'm a host, a living database. I live because I find it fun to be an information conduit, to process trends and support the ones I deem worthy. There was no Masquerade violation. She was showing off her skills all along. She put you into a world of pure fiction, the same way she was testing you when she attacked you from the back. Damn, she's good at this. Of course you can ignore what I'm saying and decide I'm just another deranged Malkavian, but hey, annihilation of the self is the only way to survive in the 21st century. If there ever was an era that demanded images of beautiful people transcending beyond humanity and inspiring others to do the same, it is this one. Although for now, because of Masquerade, my audience is quite limited. Speaking of, you want to be the star of my next movie? Sure, why not? I have a hunch you're just saying that, but still, hey, in a way, this too is transcending beyond self. But yeah, your test is over. Now the question is, do I want to work with you? She puts away her phone. She puts her phone for the first time since you've met her, and gives you a look. Good hard look. Vibe check, Vivo. Guess I can give it a shot, yeah. You're not that dumb, you're not that boring, and you're kinda cute. Don't worry, no more modeling jobs. Mods get attached, and that's always bad news. She grabs your arm and starts leading you out of her room. GPS. I've put you through enough shit. Next time, I'll let you in on a little job I'm doing. We'll hit the streets and you'll see why Sophie told you to contact me. She leads you through a labyrinth of gray corridors. It's a different route than the one you made your way through it. The city is so much more than what its elites consider real. Stick with me and I'll guide you to places Camarilla elders wouldn't reach in 100 years. She leads you out of the building, into the back alleys. Shitty trailer voice. Even if someone else rules the streets, we will rule the information highways. This is the power of hope. She lets out a theatrical laugh and disappears. You don't even notice when she leaves you alone, but you assume everything went as well as it could. A new ally. The power of hope. As you walk into the night, everything around you feels a little less tangible than it was a few hours ago. Shit. That person's still waiting there. Well, buddy, I think you're gonna wait. She did say that I should. This guy is a guy that's connected to the that's connected to the sheriff. I feel like that would be a good. As you make your way down Clinton Street, the incessant hum of traffic gives way to the ominous silence of the waterfront. You stop to take in the familiar bouquet of the Hudson, made all the more potent by your recently sharpened senses. Across the basin, the Red Hook grain terminal rears its rusty frame, once a bustling industrial area, now a sleeping giant splayed on the riverbank, forgotten, abandoned. Conveniently so, especially for one of the hidden. Keeping to the shadows, you sneak closer to the dilapidated complex. Dilapidated. Making your way past hole-ridden silos and wobbly chain-link fences. By the time you reach the entrance to the main building, you can almost feel the rusty particles making themselves cozy at the back of your throat. Not getting your hopes up, you give the door a slight nudge. To your surprise, it gives almost instantly. Looks like somebody's been using it recently. Once inside, you find yourself in a large empty hall. Looking around, you can almost picture it back in its heyday, stacked to the rafters with heavy machinery. You notice a set of stairs leading up to a mezzanine, most likely an office space, and then you see it, a faint light coming from one of the upper rooms. Looks like you're in luck. Quietly, with bated breath, you climb the steps and approach a dimly lit room. The door creaks open, revealing what looks like an old-timey detective's office, complete with crooked window blinds, an overflowing ashtray, and paper scattered across the wooden desk. Suddenly, it hits you, that nagging feeling. This is all too convenient, too inviting. Before you can react, the trap is already sprung. A plume of cigar smoke wafts over your shoulder. A gun barrel rubs against your spine. A raspy voice whispers in your ear. Let me guess. Took a wrong turn on the third silo. You decide to play along. Raising your arm slowly, you weigh your next words carefully. You're pretty sure a bullet to the back wouldn't kill you, but it doesn't sound too pleasant. Either. You mean this isn't Bloodsuckers Anonymous? A noise rattles behind your head, like someone shook a can full of gravel. It might have been a chuckle, but your guess is as good as anyone's. Oh, he's got a gravelly voice. Wise guy, huh? Looking for you. I have a soft spot for wise guys. So I'll give you a chance to explain yourself. In a strange interplay of light and shadow, the stranger reappears behind his desk. Seeing him in his full, for lack of a better word, glory, you can't help but smirk. This is the dreaded Nosferatu? The way Sophie described him, you were expecting some grotesque monstrosity, but this guy, the clothes, the swagger, the hard-boiled detective routine, it all comes across as a bad joke. Still, when it comes to appearance, his lineage is undeniable. From 30 feet away, he could probably pass for a bum with a nasty skin condition. From 5 feet away, he looks like something made to be seen from 30 feet away. He leans back in his chair, casually pointing his gun at you. So, what brings you to my humble office? No. No. Are you D'Angelo? No. You the one they called D'Angelo? That's my name, kid. Don't wear it out. My friends call me Jin, so you best stick to D'Angelo for the time being. Now I suggest you tell me what this is about. Otherwise, I kindly ask you to get the fuck out of my office. Charming. I can see why Kadir keeps you around. His expression sours. Not a name you want to casually toss around, kid. But hey, I get it. You're not some random schmuck who wandered in here off the street. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Who I work for is less important. What I'm working on, however. The Red Hook murders. I know. I want to help. I want to help you catch a killer. His moldy lips twist into a smile. Do you now? D'Angelo lowers his shades just for a few seconds. He sits motionless, his eyes fixed on yours. Suddenly, he raises his gun, almost making you flinch. Almost. Then he twirls it into his shoulder holster in a flashy display that definitely looks like it was practiced. A lot. In front of a mirror. You see the Nosferatu's lips move, but the quiet mumbling clearly isn't meant for your ears. Listening in, you're able to catch snippets of his monologue. Sure, they seem to care. What was the endgame? What was their angle? Everybody's got one, even if they pretend they don't. Especially then. What the hell? Maybe this town finally got to me. He pauses, sticks a fresh cigar between his crooked teeth. Maybe a good leap of faith is just what the doctor ordered. Are you narrating? I just met him. I shouldn't call him out yet. As he reaches into his pocket, you flash a lit cigarette lighter before his eyes. Or maybe you could use a healthy dose of unhealthy. For a split second, he gives you a puzzled look. Then he leans over to your lighter, puffing on the cig as it catches fire. A wry smile comes to his lips. I like you, kid. You might look like a used car salesman, but there's just something about you. Tell you what, I was just about to head back to the crime scene, take a look around, refresh my notes. You can tag along if you want to. I could use an assistant, someone to take notes and make wild assumptions for me to shoot down. Who knows, if you're any good, I might consider making this a long-term arrangement. Sounds good. Sure it does, kid. I'm the one who said it. Just one more thing. You still got me at a disadvantage here. It seems like you've done some digging on me. But with you, I barely scratch the surface. You catch my drift? So answer me this. Who was it that sent you to my neck of the woods? Or, in layman's terms, who do you work for? I've told everyone else, Sophie Langley. For the first time since you got here, the Nosferatu adopts a look of genuine surprise. His eyes wander for a moment, finally giving way to a crooked smile. So you're the one, huh? The fledgling the Toreador Dame spared. Well, yeah, that would make sense. Don't think she'd appreciate you throwing her name around. Thanks for being upfront, kid. One blink is enough for you, to Miss Angelo vanishing from his chair. When you're about to look around, he reappears right next to you. Up close, his smile is even more unnerving. Alright, moonlight's burning. Let's get cracking. With a certain fascination, you watch Angelo stumble his way across West Brooklyn. Highly animated, incessantly scratching his face and neck, stopping every once in a while for a bout of mumbling narration. He's most certainly a sight to behold. Water. Still, he seems to be getting around okay, and you take particular note of the fact that he seems to be choosing the darker, less frequented streets. There's definitely a method to his madness. Eventually, your leprous guide takes a sudden turn off Van Brunt Street and into a particularly dingy alleyway. The torn pieces of yellow police tape are a dead giveaway. This has to be the place. Well, here we are. Time for you to earn your stripes. This is where we found him. Drained dry, not a drop of blood in him. And before you ask, no, I didn't get to see the body, so I don't know if there were any bite marks. So what can you tell me? You take a moment to examine the crime scene. Judging by the chalk outline on the pavement, the man was killed recently. Curiously, there doesn't appear to be a trace of blood or viscera, and you know the city's cleanup crew isn't that fast or that thorough. Looking up, you notice a spray-painted sign on the wall. It reads, "The Blood Speaks," in big crooked letters. You look to D'Angelo. The Nosferatu gives you an expecting look. I mean, the graffiti is pretty specific. You point at the spray painted sign. That looks like a clue. Sure, kid. Might as well start with the elephant in the room. What do you think it means? You give the sign a good hard look. It's no Rembrandt. The writing is jagged, clearly done in a hurry. It seems desperate. My thoughts exactly. It's as if someone wanted to get a message across, but was too scared to stick around and write the whole damn book. So we got the abridged version. And then there's the blood, or lack thereof, and given that the murder was committed right here and the victim didn't make a sound, we can therefore conclude that the killer was kindred. Bingo. Only a kindred could drain a human this quickly, this quietly. Tell me, if you were to guess which clan would your killer say, or which clan would you say our killer belongs to? Do I know anything about Thin Bloods? I mean, I do, personally. I don't. What? I... Give me a second. Let me look at Malkavian real quick. Does it mention blood speaks? Psychologists would diagnose the children of Malkav with schizophrenia, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, or post-traumatic stress disorder, sometimes all at once. In reality, Clan of the Moon are all of these things and none. Like the wise madman of poetry, the derangement stems from seeing too much of the world at once, from understanding too deeply, and feeling emotions that were too strong to bear. They self-medicate with blood, but that is just a temporary solution. All Malkavians suffer mental illness following the embrace, sometimes accentuating an existing condition, other times adding a new dimension into their instability, as if their thoughts and actions are based on otherworldly logic. There seems to be no knowing whether their condition will manifest destructively or when it will offer important perspectives where such were previously lacking. They are referred to as oracles, jesters, and visionaries, or in a more insulting matter, as madmen, liabilities, and lunatics. I mean, Thin Bloods, Tremere see beauty in all things. I'm gonna go Malkavian. I want to say Thin Blood, but I don't think that's correct. Maybe it's a Malkavian serial killer. They're pretty nuts, right? Nah, kid. The moon is going to be a bit playful, but there's a method to their madness. It leaves a certain aftertaste. This right here, it just reeks of desperation. Sorry. That's a little hard on the throat. Oh, come on. That was my original, but I don't have knowledge of that in the book, so I might be jumping to conclusion, but my money's on the Thin Bloods. Now, let's look at the Thin Bloods real quick. This is a lot of information. Vampires with blood so diluted that they retain many vampiric human traits. The Thin Bloods are invariably clanless. Oh yeah, survivors of the last decades of pogroms, prejudice, and ostracization. Their numbers now swell. Sorry. Their messy street alchemy and ability to pass as human makes them uniquely suited to thrive outside kindred society and make their own fate in the postmodern night. The Thin Bloods can be of any mortal origin and are not affected by their parent clan's curse, nor by their preferences in the same degree as their sire. In 2009, the Inner Circle of the Camarilla issued an edict that all Thin blooded must be branded or tattooed with the mark of the crescent moon, inked by a Tremere tattoo artist, or scorched with a beam of sunlight. The brand is irreversible. Many kindred still view the Thin Bloods as a threat to the Masquerade. Weaklings run off abortions and will destroy them if given the chance. Those who don't despise Thin Bloods tend to call them young ones, chameleons, or duskborns. I was thinking it could be a Thin Blood. But I was going to go with the obvious thing because... He pauses, spits out the mangled remains of a cigar. Shit, looks like we're gonna have to pay Larson a visit. You don't sound too happy about it. It's complicated. Larson's got a neat setup for a thin blood anyway. Lives with his family, a mortal family, mind you. Even though he's a Premiogen, he manages to shield them from kindred politics, and that takes some doing. Not sure if he knows who the killer is, but he could probably make an educated guess. In any case, we'll be doing him a favor. If it turns out to be one of his violating the Masquerade, it would put him in a hell of an awkward position, and I mean shitting upside down awkward. It's a kind of weakness the other Premiogen would love to exploit. His position in the council is as bad as it is. He pauses for a moment and mumbles to himself, but it's too quiet for you to make out. Finally, he lights up a fresh cigar. He takes a puff and lets the smoke escape through his crooked smile. All right, kid, let's get this over with. Compared to the industrial ugliness of the Red Hook, Sterling's place is quite a change of scenery. The heavily gentrified and pleasantly dull residential area emanates the sort of peaceful apathy the rich hipsters scoff at and blue-collar workers dream of. All of a sudden, the Nosferatu stops. It almost seems like he was taking a deep breath, steeling himself for things to come. This is a place. With that, he points to a surprisingly nice-looking two-story house. The place is almost completely dark. Almost. You notice a dim light shining through the curtains of the upper-story window. It's probably safe to assume that the head of the family is working late, especially the head of the family. The head of the family happens to be a vampire. Okay, kid, we gotta be gentle about this. I'm talking velvet gloves, soft cushions. You rang my lord gentle. We need to get Larson out here without making a fuss or letting his family see us. If we blow this, he'll shut down like his speakeasy on raid night. Trust me, I know. Sounds like you two have some history. Sounds about right, but that's a story for another time. Right now, let's stick to why we're here. Tell you what, how about you take the lead on this one? I'm curious to see how you'll handle it. You take a step back and look around the area. The lit up window seems like a safe bet. Now it's just a matter of getting Larson's attention. His and no one else's. As you're trying to come up with a viable strategy, you're suddenly startled by a loud noise. It takes you a second to identify the sound as a dog's barking. It doesn't take you long to figure out where it came from, as a bearded man leading a Rottweiler on a leash comes into view. You'll kneel down and pick a rock up off the lawn. One small enough to not break glass, but big enough to get someone's attention. Deftly, you chuck the rock at the window. It bounces off the glass with a quiet but audible thunk. Moments pass in silence, making you think no one got your message. Just as you start to look for another rock, you hear the window slide open. A very unassuming and slightly unshaven man in a turtleneck appears at the window. As soon as he notices you, his expression sours, like he just smelled something rotten. He addresses your Nosferatu partner in what could only be described as a very loud and very angry whisper. Get the fuck off my lawn, D'Angelo. You know goddamn better than to show your ugly mug around here. You glance over to D'Angelo. He looks somewhat embarrassed, scratching the back of his neck, clearly trying to find the right angle to play this. We wouldn't have bothered you if this wasn't important. Excuse me, who the fuck are you anyway? Screw it, stay where you are. You wait out in the lawn, listening to Larson quietly make his way downstairs. Before long, he appears on the porch, locking the front door behind him. He motions at you to follow him off to the side of the house. There, he turns towards you. What do you want? It's about the Red Hook murders. We think one of yours is responsible. Bullshit. Dustborn's got enough trouble just staying alive out here. What could possibly make them openly violate the Masquerade? Desperation. The killer's been leaving messages. Whoever they are, I think they know something. Something ain't right. They can't share with just anyone. I know it seems far-fetched, but it's the only way the puzzle fits together. Nah, I don't buy it. You're reaching, trying to find a scapegoat, getting your boss's good graces. Word gets around, D'Angelo. You think I don't know who you're working for? Then help us clear your people's name. What have you got to lose? Everything. I've been a thorn in the council's side for a while now. This is just the excuse they need to get rid of me. What if it turns out one of yours did it and you sit on your hand to protect him? You think the council won't jump on that? He looks off into the darkness, pondering his options. He lets out a heavy sigh. Look, I'll ask around, consult my sources. If it turns out one of my own is responsible, they will face justice. In the meantime, keep your deductions to yourself. I have enough trouble as it is. Deal. Good. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get back to my family. And with that, Larson retreats to the elusive safety of his home. You decide it's best to move along. You walk a couple blocks in utter silence. Even D'Angelo's mumbling seems to have taken a back seat. Oddly enough, you find his newfound reticence somewhat unnerving. Finally, the Nosferatu stops and turns towards you. Well, of the night. I don't know about you, kid, but I sure could use a drink. Something warm in a tall, sweaty glass. But first, let me tell your score. Let's see now. You did make a good first impression. I like someone who can talk themselves out of a tight spot. Talking's cheap. Bullets, not so much. You held your own at the crime scene. Nothing I hadn't figured out on my own. But hey, we can't all be professionals. Finally, when the situation called for subtlety, you managed to avoid unwanted attention. Discretion is what separates a private dick from any old dick. Heh, dick. All in all, you did fine. Not fine, but not bad for your first case. Don't let it go to your head. I'll be in touch, let you know if I hear from Larson. Be ready to meet me in the office. He starts to walk away, but suddenly stops and turns back towards you. And bring a notepad. Every good assistant should have one.